let's talk about the inverse norm function on your calculator. Now this calculator process goes backward from what we were just doing. So in the last video we said, here's some scores, what percentage of people are between these scores? We want to go backwards now. We're going to say, here's a percent, what scores would be between these percentages? So let's walk through how to do this. UCAN University offers academic scholarships to students who score in the top 10% on the ACT. So let's start by sketching that out. Here's our normal curve. Our mean is still 21. And we know that this over here is going to be the top 10% of students. And we want to know, what score do you need to get so that this area here is exactly 10%. That's what the inverse norm function on your calculator does. So here's how we get to it. We do second vars like we did last time, but now we're going to do the inverse norm, inv norm. Okay, now I actually had to go back because I made a little bit of a mistake. So something that we need to talk about, when you do the inverse norm function on your calculator on this one's going to look very different depending on how old your calculator is. So mine is actually an older calculator, so I'm going to show you both. So let's go back up. Our inverse norm function, when you type this into your calculator, it's going to ask you for at least 3 things. At the very least, your calculator is going to ask for these. Mean and standard deviation is not going to change. If you have a newer calculator versus an older calculator, that's going to change your area. So let's talk about older calculators first. That's what I've got. It might be the one you have. It might be the app that you've got. If your calculator just says paste at this point, that's how you know you have an older calculator. For example, on mine, I do second vars, do my inverse norm, number 3, and it has area, mean, standard deviation, paste. If you have a newer calculator, it's going to say left, middle, and right, and then it's going to say paste. Either way, you will get to the same answer. You're just going to have to type it in differently. If you have a newer calculator, this is easier. All you have to say is my area is 10%. Turn that into a decimal by moving to the left twice, 0.1. And I want the area to the right of that 0.1 because that's the right side of the normal curve right over here. So you're going to select right, do paste and enter it all in, and it'll give you an answer. If you have an older calculator that doesn't have that, your older calculator will automatically do things to the left of your line. That's just what it's programmed to do. So in that case, I don't want my area to be 0.1. I want it to be everything else. So I want it to be 0.9. And then you type all those in and you should get the same answer either way. So since I have an older calculator, I don't have the left, middle, right, I'm going to do 0.9. My mean is 21. My standard deviation is 5.2 because I want to the left 0.9 of that number. And we got 27.66. So 27.66. So that is the ACT score I would need right here, 27.66 or a 28. I would need to get at least a 28 on the ACT to get into this university, to be in the top 10% of students. So let's try K. I want you to do this one on your own. We'll start by sketching the normal curve together, and then I want you to type it in by yourself. ACT score 21. We want to get in the 60th percentile. Well, this is halfway, so that's the 50th percentile, halfway. So 60th percentile is going to be up here. And I want to know what score would get me in the 60th percentile. So that is this area here. So I want you, whether you have an older calculator or a newer calculator, write in what you need to type into your calculator and then get an answer, and then come back to double check and see how you did. Check what you got with what I got. So if you have a newer calculator, your area is 0.6, because that's how much I want here, my 60th percentile. Mean is still 21, standard deviation is 5.2. If you have a newer calculator, you would say, I want it to the left. I want it the left end of my curve. If you have an older calculator that doesn't give you this option, remember it automatically does to the left, so that's what we want anyway. And then we paste and enter, and it gives us 22.31. So if I want to score in at least the 60th percentile to appease my mom, I need to get at least a 23. Because if I get a 22, that's technically less than the 60th percentile. So I need at least a 23 to make my mom happy. Anyway, that is everything about the inverse norm function, and that is all for 11.3. So you have your assignment 1 through 4 that you need to do, and then you also have your group project skill check. And here's what you're going to do for this one. Number 1, you need to calculate the standard deviation for your data, because you're going to draw a normal curve for your data with the mean and the 3 lines. And keep in mind, that normal curve needs to be drawn nice, really nice and organized, because you're going to put it on your poster, on your presentation. So to find the standard deviation, you're actually going to do the 1 var stats from the last lesson in 11.2. And there's going to be a little line in that called SX, and that's your standard deviation. So just do what you did last lesson with 1 var stats, where you found the mean and the median. And there's another line in that list called SX, and there you go. Draw a normal curve. Then you're going to find any outliers for your data. So any numbers that are farther than 3 standard deviations from the mean. So any numbers that are like crazy out there. And you're going to list those. And then find the mean, median, and mode without the outliers. So take them out of your list and then do 1 var stats and recalculate the mean, median, and mode. The idea behind this is if you take your outliers out, your data should be more normally based. It should look more like a bell curve, which means your mean and the median should be closer to the same. So that's what we're testing here. If we take the outliers out, do our mean and median come closer together? Then you're going to sketch a normal curve for your combined groups data. So you need standard deviation for that. And then any outliers and mean, median, mode without the outliers. Finally, you're going to calculate z-scores for a couple of your data points. So line up your data from least to greatest and find the z-score for the lowest score, or for the lowest data point, for the highest data point, and then count to find the 15th and the 23rd data point and find the z-score of those. Same for your whole group data. Line them up from least to greatest and then find those data points. And that's what you'll put into your presentation. That should be it.